Well, welcome to the Youth Revival podcast, and it's great to gather together. I'm here with a good friend of mine, leading a great youth ministry at Soul Church in Norwich with the legends. I've got to give them a shout out, John and Chantel Norman. Love you loads. But Sam, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, Nate, thanks for having me. Well, hey guys, good to be here. I've been watching since it started. I remember when you launched this, it was really, really cool. But yeah, my name's Sam, and I look after Soul Youth in Norwich. Under our incredible pastor, John Chantel. You might have heard about Pastor John because he's the crazy guy with big blonde hair, looks a little bit like Gordon Ramsay in Lynn's West. But also, he ran 7 marathons in 7 days, and so he's a real inspiration. But yeah, we're kind of in this interesting time, aren't we, Nath, with lockdown, and we thought it'd be cool to just have a chat, talk about how can you still build church, build youth ministry in this season.
Yeah, and I guess that's what we're looking at, and hopefully inspiring a few people as we do this. Why don't you just Sam, just running through a little bit of what you're doing at the moment as Soul Youth, what kind of your program looks like, those kind of things.
Yeah, so we've stayed on Friday. So before we got locked down, before Corona, we were doing a Friday night program. Used to run 7 till 9 p.m, kind of a little bit over. And within that, there's a main element. So before the youth program started, there was a 6 o'clock team meeting that actually ran for 45 minutes together. We'd pray together, we'd do leadership training together, and that was a really great time. And then at 7 o'clock, we'd start the hangout time for 45 minutes and then go to service. So quite a traditional kind of youth ministry idea. Yeah. Now we try to transfer it to this new world we're in, where it's online. So we've actually opted to go for Zoom as our main platform for youth ministry. That's really where we feel like got the relationships. And I was chatting to some other youth pastors, and we're talking about like the security issues of Zoom, and I think we've got to talk about it. And it's kind of like, how do you manage those things? So one of the things we did with Zoom is we looked at getting a paid account. So we've got the paid account for it. I think it's about £11 a month. It's not a lot at all. And that means you can have breakout rooms. So how it works is on a Friday night, everyone goes onto the Zoom link, and then you'll be met by Joseph. So Joseph kind of he's our youth pastor. I just look after age groups. We met by him, and he'll assign you to what group you're in. Right. So if you've already got a group, it's great because you go, I'm in the Nug Club. That's the group I'm part of. Or there's the Iron Brew Girls. There's all got a name. But then you might tell people like, hey, I don't have a group yet. And Joseph's able to explain who we are, what we do a little bit more, and also kind of vet them in that state.
Yeah.
A young person, all those things, and then get involved. And so that's kind of provided a bit of security for us. We feel like there's a bit more security on it. You can't just appear on Zoom without kind of first meeting a youth leader. They go into the groups, they have hang time. So some of the lads, they're just playing Xbox together. Some of the girls are just chatting. So some of the groups have been playing big games of Bring Me around the house. And yeah, it's really cool. So and the youth leaders are kind of running that, and then that happens.
Let me stop you there. Just tell us about Bring Me, because that might be a great game that youth ministries.
Super simple.
You're always looking for games.
Always looking for games. So it's a super simple game. It's actually we play it in kids' church with the kids. So it's like, bring me a pair of like white trainers. But we now just play it in people's houses. So youth leaders there, and you're like, okay, bring me a toilet roll. But you can get crazy because some things like most people do have, but they're like, where would you find that? So that's like, bring me a pink dressing gown. Now it take a few minutes. Like, okay, maybe you haven't got one, but yeah, they've been really good fun, and it has some laughs, and like, bring me the most random object you can find. And we actually played a massive group game. So on the whole Zoom structure, you've got little breakout rooms, which are basically our connect groups, and you've also got the ability to pull everyone together. So the connect groups, we leave it up to the leader, depending on how they feel their group works well. Sometimes people have groups, especially some of the younger lads, they really struggle talking. And they just don't want to talk for 45 minutes. So we just say to that leader, you decide when you turn up, but we want you there by 7:45, because that's the time when we're going to start service. So they have from 7 to 7:45 to engage. We really kind of encourage them to say, at least get 15 minutes with your crew. And then let's get together 7:45. And we've actually been using this time to get guest speakers in. Because at the moment, everyone's pretty available because everyone's at home. And so we've just used this opportunity to bring friends in from around the world. Right. Awesome to see. And like, we're just trying our luck. We just say, hey, would you better speak for us? And people were like, yeah, we'd love to. So we've got a good friend called Daniel Maloney he's part of Hillsong Cape Town now, an Irish guy. He's coming out. He ran a big thing called Chapel out in Ireland, Dublin. So he's going to speak to youth tonight, which is really cool. And so we'll just top and tail it. But really, I think just on the whole heart behind how the lens we're focusing youth ministry through is we don't want to just create content. We want to create community.
Right.
I think we're in a season where you do one or the other. And I think there's a time for creating content, and I think we do need to create content, and we also need to create community. And so Friday nights for us is about community. It's about how do we bring people together? How do we give them the best experience we can where they go, I want to come back next week. And that is through having conversations. The reason why kids turn back up to youth ministry every single Friday night when it's normal is because their friends are there. And so we can still do that via this.
That's so good. I think a lot of youth ministries watching this, I think they'll be in the same kind of thinking in terms of it is about community. It's about relationship. We've always had a kind of a little saying. It's about, we have this relationship times 3, which is a relationship with friends. So they build relationship with friends, relationship with a leader, a role model, someone who's going to inspire them, encourage them, and then ultimately relationship with God. And if people who've come into our youth ministry for first time, when we've been physically meeting, that's kind of been a bit of their journey. They've come in with friends, they've built friends, they build a relationship with a leader, and then, it's kind of like, and then they build relationship with God because there's this openness to it. No, I think that's so good. And also something, and maybe you can jump off this a little bit, Sam. I love that, you were talking about the young lads, they don't want to sit there and talk for 45 minutes, whatever. Just talk a little bit about how you're kind of open and flexible to what the needs of a small group are, really.
I think you got to take time. Like, I've got a guy who mentors me, a youth ministry guy called Tim Hawkins, and he says we can never measure the success of a youth ministry on numbers. And sometimes, like, especially if you've got group leaders, they're like, and you ask them a question, how many of your group were there? And they go, oh, like, not even half. And they feel like it's a massive thing. And I think we've got to be a bit more gracious. So as kind of as youth pastors leading our teams, we've got to say, hey, like, as long as you're reaching out, as long as you're trying, as long as you're trying to engage them where they're at. Because I think you just work with where your kids are at. And over time, over the last few weeks, we've seen more and more kids wanting to engage a bit more. And I feel like we're not maybe necessarily meeting as many new kids.
Yeah.
But the relationships we do have kids, because it's then like just the WhatsApp chats that you got with them. There's just a bit more of an engagement. We're now doing like small group like multiple times in a week. So we're trying to get a small group in midweek and then doing the Friday nights. Where before this all happened, because that's how busy lives were, we'd only do group twice a week. It's now ramped up, twice a month, sorry. So it's now gone to twice a week. From twice a month. So like, that's just incredible. So I think this is a real season where we're strengthening, and I think we will come out stronger. Because it's just more of talking.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like my feelings are the same, and talking to others, it does seem that youth ministries, relationships, those small groups seem to be a lot stronger in terms of, because, there's that time element. I think also, I mentioned this before, but I think we found that actually doing things online with young people works. That small group stuff works and builds relationship. And I think that's so good.
But it's what they've been doing for years, though, isn't it? Like Snapchat and like Xbox Live, PS4, whatever it is. But that's what they've been doing after school, like, for years. And it's actually rare now to go out. Like when me and you grew up, Nath, we were out on our bikes, riding the streets, going to the park, playing football. But that's not as common anymore. No. It has gone online.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, and I think sometimes we've neglected that side, because it's, sometimes we've seen that as the enemy, the distractions.
Yes.
Rather than actually, how do we get ourselves in there? Yeah. How do we use those things? I think that's really important. You mentioned, obviously, small groups, they'll play Xbox together, they'll play games together. How much do you think, so you had that 45 minutes before, and that's flexible for leaders depending on their group. How much in this season, and this season of leading young people, how much do you think fun plays a role?
Massively. And I think there's a bigger conversation to be had about the length of contact we're having. So right now, there's probably some of the guys that listen to this podcast that have zoned out. They've either clicked off, they've lost it. They're like, oh, okay, that was cool. And that's the thing I'm noticing. Like, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I have a very short attention span. And so I'm struggling to engage in anything for too long. So how do we keep people, just engaged in the moment? And I think we can see it because I chatted to a lad the other day. I said, oh, what have you been doing like with your quarantine? Like, what are you doing today? And he was like, oh, I've been watching TikToks all day. I was like, what? He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, that's like 30 seconds, right? Like 30 to a minute. He's been watching all day.
Wow.
So his mind is just fried. It's like almost being like a 2p machine at the fairground all day. Just ding, 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 ding. And then I'm trying to get him just to sit for 15 minutes and listen to someone speak. Like that's like bonkers. Like, and I think we can do it, but I think we've got to try and keep it engaging. So we're really now trying to make sure that the speaker just doesn't talk for too long, just like points, just, that's it. Like maybe a funny story, a couple of points, but then it's now the pastoring is happening not from the platform, it's happening from the group leader.
Yeah.
Then them. And so like I've had a kid come to me in the last couple of weeks, he's like, I want to get baptized. I'm like, that's quality. I don't know if that was going to be something that you had done anyway, or if it's something that this environment is just supercharged him. It's like, yeah. And so in the season where he's isolated from people, he's actually always more connected to God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sick, because that's a whole new thing for him. So.
Are you going to do baptism? Are you going to do 2 meters away with a fire hose or something?
Yeah, I've seen there's a priest online doing it. Maybe, we'll see.
Those drive-through baptisms.
Drive-through I'll just go chuck a bucket of water on him.
Yeah, open your sunroof. It's coming in. No, that's really good. And, kind of just thinking on that whole thing of keeping them engaged. You mentioned I've been watching TikToks all day. I think the average user on YouTube, which this will go out on, is watching like 3 minutes of a video, and you got videos on there for an hour long. And so, use it, especially if you're going to do a message or like a short thought, that first minute is the hook.
Yeah.
It's the first moment. It's the, how do I get them engaged? It's even that, talk to where they're at, but also just asking the question, have you ever felt or something, I think is really important. Is there anything in terms of, so, you do your small groups, 45 minutes, and then you go into message. What would that look like? Would that, would you host that? How would that look?
Yeah. So Joseph's been hosting it. So we kind of got it the setup that he runs the whole service from a tech side and from an MC side. So he's got everyone kind of ready. And it's just fast paced. So we don't want people going on for too long. And what the feedback we're having is that the kids love the group. However, the group kind of discussion doesn't work without the meat, and so, we literally, so it's straight into the message. We don't do worship. I just think, like, I've seen guys do it incredibly. Like, we haven't got it. And so I'm just like, well, if I can't do it that well, and we can do it through groups. So don't do worship, straight into the word, quick thought, then back into groups, do a group discussion, back into the main room, and then we'll do giving. We're actually, this week, we're trying to do giving with a pre-recorded video. Right. So one of the things we're doing is we've got this massive COVID response we're doing, part of our Soul Foundation, which is the charity connected to the church. And they're going to feed the homeless. So we filmed a video with a lot of stuff connected, kind of showing what's happening on the ground, how they can be part of it. And that's been really cool. Like, we had one kid, he just inspired. He's like, I'm going to raise some money for it. So he cycled a marathon on a bike and he raised over 500 quid. Wow. Which isn't bad. Like, that's bigger than any offerings I normally get on a Friday night. He raised that. I was like, sick. So that's inspired them, and just keeping it fast. Yeah. We know how hard it is, even when internet drops in and out. You're like, oh. So just keep it moving, keep it fast, and get the guys back into groups as fast as they can. And when they're in the groups, they feel like they can just relax, have fun, they can talk. When they're all muted, when they haven't got the ability to engage, that's when they start losing interest. So
would you run your night 7 till 9 still?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So first 45 minutes is the group stuff. Mm-hmm. How long usually is that section when they're all together?
When they're all together, so it's around half an hour.
Yeah.
So around half an hour we're going for.
Great.
And that's got a bit of so the bit of a game, so we might do bring me. Sometimes we don't, just because if we can't think of something decent to do, we're not just going to do it for the sake of it. We did one where it was quite cool. It was just fancy dress.
Yeah.
And so everyone was just in ridiculous stuff, and that was a laugh. And then we've been doing so if we want to do a prize, we do like an Amazon voucher. And so they win like an Amazon voucher, you can send that to them. So yeah, all different little things that can just hopefully just spice it up a little bit.
No, I think that's a great point in terms of, getting things, it has to be fast paced. They're used to fast pace. You were talking about TikTok, 30-second video. They're on to the next one. They're on to the next one. So yeah, I think that's really important. Go on. Did you have it?
And then I think always that whenever we do something, don't just do it because me and Nathan said do it.
Yeah.
Like do it because you've like, what is your purpose? Like what? So before you even get to the point of, I don't know where you guys are at with youth ministry and on Friday nights and online and stuff, but it's like, why am I doing this? Am I doing it just to provide activity for them, or am I doing it because there's a biblical purpose in this? And I think when you've got a clear understanding, I'm here to disciple young people in this season. I'm like what that is will then dictate everything else we do. So it hasn't got to be the right way or wrong way. Right. I think just always understand what's the main structure, what's the lens we're seeing it through, and then that will help provide shape to it.
It's the whole thing of why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And when you know the why, it dictates the what. I think that's really important. In terms of your team, Sam, leading your team, leading small group leaders, leading the breakout rooms, have you had to are you leading differently in this season? And if so, how does that look? And how different does that look? Or is it just the same?
Yeah, massively. So, I think you've got to change. One of the things that we found is that almost it's harder to motivate people. I don't know about you, but like I'm like on a Friday night, I'm like, oh, I just want to watch a film now, like Netflix, whatever. And it's like, what? Like, so we've had this whole kind of thing. It's like, oh, am I supposed to be there at youth? We're like, yeah, you're a youth leader. Like, youth still continues. So just a little bit helping people learn culture. We still do a team meeting. So we do a team meeting at 6, and that's still kind of more of a half an hour kind of just time to get together. However, we're also aware that we struggle to engage in that time. So we're trying to keep that fresh. So maybe we'll record it by video and you can just watch it. Maybe it's just points. We're just trying different ways to keep things moving. Then we're speaking to the team every single week. So every youth leader gets a call, just checked in. And just make sure they're good and ready to go. And I think that's been good. But I also think keep meetings short. Like, let's not just have a meeting because we feel like we need to have a meeting to make it look like we're doing something. Like, let's just, like, I had a meeting this week. I was like, hey guys, you all good? They're like, yeah, all good. I'm like, all right, like, let me know if you need me. Because we're just in this season now. Like, we're on it. We've got our direction. We know our marching plan. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, and I think that's a key. Like, again, just knowing that why behind it. And I love the thought, you just do a little call with each leader every week, and it is a season where, it needs that pastoral care that, youth leaders, because sometimes you might not contact every leader every week. You might drop a text, but
you see a lot of them. Like, I see
exactly.
them just naturally out and about because they be at church and stuff, where I'm now having to be more and more intentional.
Yeah. And
I've actually found this is a season where we've had higher levels of pastoral needs than ever before. But then I think the beauty of just being able to call someone, all I'm doing is just, I'm like, oh, I'll just give someone a call, give them a call. And I think we've got to take the pressure off. Sometimes you think, oh, if I'm going to call someone, I'm going to be stuck on the phone for ages. But if you haven't got that time, just say, hey, I've only got 5 minutes, but I just wanted to check in how you're doing. Yeah. And people love that. They're like, you thought about me, you wanted to. And just say, like, I'm still heavily involved with the food bank stuff. So I've literally been like, have got 5 minutes, but I just wanted to see how you're doing. And hey, I'm here for you. If you want to give me a call later. And they're like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Just do it a few times a week and people love it.
No, I think that's great. And even, people appreciate when you call them and you've only got 5 minutes, because it's like, it'd be easy for you not to do it. So I think,
and then one thing on team is, we've gone from being 3D. So if we did this like 6 months ago, we'd have been in the same room chatting. But now all I can see is your face on my screen. So there's all of the body languages, everything. I can't see how tense you are. I can't see if you're tapping your fingers away, going, oh my gosh, well, I don't know what you're doing. It's just very different to
massage, mate.
If you do the massage too.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is that we are almost struggling to always understand people's hearts and people's intentions. So I think in this season more than ever we need to be more gracious. And like I know I got frustrated with people, and it was never their intention. I was just like, why is this not happening? And I was just getting frustrated, and it's because it was 2D, it's not 3D, and so I either assume the worst or assume something's happened that hasn't happened. You're like, what are you doing all day? You're just sitting around. And actually, there's not many people that are just sitting around. There's a few, but there's not many. Most people have got stuff they're still doing. They're still working, trying to make something happen, or trying to keep the kids happy, whatever it is. So I think let's remember we're in a 2D season. So let's be extra gracious and let's not get frustrated at people. And if we feel ourselves getting frustrated, we need to then become encouragers. Because encouragement actually removes frustration.
No, I think that's brilliant. That's a great thought, Sam. I was actually talking with my dad, my pastor, and he was saying on these calls and stuff which we're doing for all of our meetings, you notice that people's resting faces don't aren't always smiling and don't always look like they're interested, but they're concentrating, they're interested. But sometimes we can take our gauge off of just what we see, and like you said, it's 2D, and we can't do that. We've got to have that grace and have that approach.
Like if we're in a room together, we could be doing like silly stuff in the corner, just like having a laugh, but you don't get that in the dynamic. Like my meetings, normally I'm in, they're with crazy people, so things just happen. Like stuff gets thrown around the office or whatever. But we haven't got that. We haven't got ability, which is a shame. So it means that we have to really try and create, I guess, part of the dynamic. But I think let's not do things for the sake of doing it. Let's make sure that, and just speak to the elephant in the room. If that needs to happen, you can just say, hey guys, like I just want you to focus for the next 5 minutes. I know it's really difficult. I know you might have your phone going off next to you. Just give me attention.
I think that's great. I think it's great. Well, it's been good to chat, Sam. I'm going to ask kind of one last question to you, and I love to ask this question. Obviously, we're reaching youth pastors, youth leaders. If there was one thing just to encourage them, just to speak into them in this season, what would be that thing that you'd love to say to them?
The fact that you are leading a youth ministry is incredible. Don't go so hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. You are making more impact than you realise. And so I think that's the thing that I've had to learn, is that it's not about numbers. It's not about your Instagram. It is not about the platforms you speak on. It's about the opportunity we have to invest in a young person's life. And that young person will go on and they will lead a life that we cannot understand what they might do. And whether that's just be the next Billy Graham, or if they're just going to have a solid family and a solid marriage, that's incredible in itself. So I think that's the season. And I think this is a season opportunity. There's so much good content out there. Well done for stumbling on this. And but yeah, just keep growing, keep learning. But remember, God's in control. So
no, so good, Sam. Thanks a lot, mate. And believe in the best for Soul Church, Soul Youth, and all of that.
Mate, thank you. Thanks for your time. It's been good.